Have you ever had the impression that something wasn't right, but couldn't say what? As if you were living a remote-controlled life, without full control over your own decisions. Maybe you made concessions you didn't want to make, gave in during arguments, even when you believed you were right, or trusted too much in someone who later showed another side. If you've ever gone through this, and honestly, we all have, this video speaks to you. Because the truth is shocking. We are being manipulated day after day, by people close to us, by the press, by leaders and authorities, by those who master the secrets of the mind, and almost always, you don't even notice. No hypnosis or science fiction tricks are necessary. The most powerful manipulation is the one that makes you believe you are in charge, that it was you who chose, that the mistake was yours alone. Most people go on like this, silently, being pushed by forces they aren't even aware of, like pieces on the board of a game they don't even know they're playing. When they try to resist, they soon feel guilt, fear, insecurity. They've been emotionally conditioned not to fight. If you think this doesn't happen to you, stop and reflect. That's exactly what a skillful manipulator wants you to believe. Today, I don't want to offer comfort. I want to give you tools. Because those who truly understand manipulation, as Machiavelli already knew, don't need to raise their voice or impose force. He simply observes, understands your weaknesses, and waits for the right moment to act, knows what motivates you. And, if you don't know, you will be guided without even realizing it. In this video, you'll learn how manipulation works in the subtlest details. You'll recognize patterns, emotional tactics, and control artifices. You'll identify your vulnerabilities and discover how to protect your mind. True freedom is not choosing what you want, but understanding the reason behind your desires. This video is a wake-up call for those tired of being a toy in the hands of others. For those who have been silenced by guilt, shame, or fear. Here, you'll learn to stop being manipulated and become the strategist. But attention, once you see it, there is no return. Prepare your mind. What will be revealed can completely change how you see yourself and those around you. Have you ever noticed how some people get everything they want, even without reason? They don't need to raise their voice, threaten, or beg. They know how to persuade through involvement. They make it seem like everything came from you. That's not natural charm. It's a method. It's manipulation in its most refined essence. The manipulator does not rely on improvisation. He observes, analyzes details of your reactions, your needs, your zones of insecurity, notices when you need to be accepted, when the fear of rejection weighs too much, when you feel remorse for setting boundaries, and turns this into a tool. Manipulation begins before the first word. It all starts with a read of your posture, your gaze, the tone of your voice. They notice the silence, observe the timing of your answers. Some choose charm, use smiles, compliments, a unique attitude. They make you feel special, heard, valued. Behind the kindness, there's calculation. They're creating an emotional debt in you, because when someone is too good, you feel you must repay. That's the moment you start to give in. Others manipulate through guilt. They play the victim, say they're exhausted, misunderstood, that they only have you. Little by little, they make you responsible for their emotions. If you pull away or say no, they don't need to raise their voice. A sigh, a painful comment, a look of sadness is enough. The subtle manipulator never asks, makes you offer yourself willingly. And there are still those who operate through fear. They create veiled threats, negative scenarios. If you do this, you'll be alone. If you leave me, you'll never find someone like me again. They don't use chains. They use ideas. They make you doubt yourself and trap you with your own limits. You remain trapped by your own will. These tactics are ancient. Machiavelli, in The Prince, described the power of manipulation precisely. He realized that human beings act driven by interest and emotion. Anyone who understands this creates their own reality around them. As he said, men judge more by their eyes than by their hands, because all can see, but few can touch. Manipulation is a well-rehearsed theater, a show of emotions disguised as truth. The manipulator sets the scene, writes the script, and gives you a role without you realizing. And the most impressive thing, you believe you're the author of your own story. This theater only exists because there's something in you that allows it. A gap, a craving, an unrecognized weakness. That's what we're going to delve into now, the vulnerability that makes you a target. As long as you don't see what weakens you'll keep being manipulated and calling it love, friendship, or respect. Let's expose that now. If this content makes sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. You are not manipulated because you are weak. You are manipulated because you are human. Every human being has an emotional blind spot, an unresolved desire, an open wound, a silent need. These gaps attract the manipulator. He doesn't push, he listens, perceives what you don't even know about yourself. Many of us live in search of approval. We learned early on that, in order to earn affection, we have to please. We were taught that love is a reward, not a right. So, we begin to act to deserve attention, recognition, acceptance. This need is a silent invitation to the manipulator. He delivers small doses of validation and, in exchange, receives blind loyalty, says what you want to hear, and thus you surrender your autonomy. Others live tormented by guilt, blame themselves for saying no, for prioritizing themselves, for setting limits. They were taught that thinking of oneself is selfish and suffering is a virtue. Even when they feel something is wrong, they don't react. They think they're being harsh, ungrateful, cold. The manipulator recognizes guilt, appears as someone concerned about your welfare, thus starts making decisions for you, using your own values against you. There are also those who live as prisoners of fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of being forgotten. Out of fear of emptiness, they accept any bond, even the most toxic. The manipulator offers shelter and then threatens to take that protection away. Makes you believe that, without him, you are nobody, and you believe it because that fear has already convinced you before. These vulnerabilities have roots. They don't appear by chance. They are scars from painful experiences, old traumas, repeated stories. As long as you don't face those wounds, they remain open. Those who arrive with smiles and secrets know where to poke. Machiavelli saw this clearly. For him, true power lies in the knowledge of human weaknesses, not in force. The nature of peoples is variable, he noted. It is easy to convince them of something. The hard part is keeping them convinced. The manipulator does not strive to convince. He occupies the spaces left open, installs himself in your lack of self-perception. But there is always a way out. You were not born to be emotionally predictable. You can seek to recognize your own vulnerabilities and learn to close these gaps. From there, you stop being a victim and gain clarity about life. That's what we're about to uncover next. How to forge your true emotional armor. How to shield yourself authentically from manipulation. Are you willing to give up your role as a hostage? The next step requires boldness. Many want to change, but few are willing to face the pain of emotional freedom. The truth sets you free, but its initial price is pain. The first wound to tend to is the idea that being good and understanding will protect you. It won't. It's precisely in that ideal, when it doesn't come together with clarity, that your vulnerable point lies. Having emotional immunity is not about losing your humanity. It's about gaining awareness. It's about stopping automatic responses to the triggers that control you. The beginning of this process is understanding what your patterns are. Think and observe. What trigger makes you say yes when you want to say no? Is it the fear of disappointing those who count on you? The anxiety of being rejected by someone you like? The need for peace, even if only momentary? When you notice what controls you, you start rewriting your responses. The second step is to have emotional detachment, as Machiavelli taught. Practice looking at situations from the outside, without losing empathy. Observe without acting on impulse. Don't take compliments as absolute truths. Notice when you're being led by your feelings and create space before responding. The manipulator needs your rush to feel, needs you to react, not to think. So, slow down so you can reason. Be unpredictable in the third step. Those who manipulate rely on repeated patterns. The manipulator already knows your script. He cries, you comfort. He compliments. You let your guard down. He pressures. You give in. Change the game. Say no when the expected answer is yes. Walk away when they expect you to insist. Stay silent when they expect confrontation. That way, you break the script and reveal the true intentions. Build an authentic identity. The more you understand yourself, the less you need other people's approval. And without the need for approval, the manipulator loses power. The manipulator tries to control how you see yourself, makes you doubt, rethink, and reshape yourself to fit their desire. When you are clear about who you are, that control disappears. Don't be fooled. This is daily practice. Emotional immunity doesn't come from outside. It arises from self-observation, from consistent choices, from resisting the desire to please all the time. Remember, your only debt is to yourself and your emotional sanity. Being whole in a world of emotional games already makes you strong. Machiavelli once said, men must be caressed or annihilated, for if they suffer minor injuries, they will revenge themselves. This is a tough thought, but it shows the dark side of emotional power. In this game, there is no neutrality. Either you learn to play or you become a piece. But what if the manipulator is inside your home, at your work, or lying next to you? How do you deal with it when breaking the tie isn't possible? In the next part, we'll dive into manipulation in relationships and how to protect yourself even when you love someone who manipulates. Maybe this is the greatest test of emotional strength. Talking about manipulation is easy when it comes to strangers. The hard part is seeing it when it comes from someone you love. A father, a mother, a partner, a boss, a childhood friend. In close bonds, manipulation is more subtle and painful. It comes disguised as care and loyalty, and fear makes you get stuck in a web that drains your energy, clarity, and identity. The close manipulator doesn't lie, just distorts, doesn't need to yell, just hints. Doesn't force you not to choose, just makes you feel guilty for choosing differently. Over time, you stop questioning, start walking on eggshells, avoid conflicts, anticipate reactions just to keep the peace. And without noticing, you become a hostage in an invisible prison made of emotional bricks. In a romantic relationship, this looks like affection. I only do this because I love you. Without you, I am nothing. But love that demands obedience isn't love. It's emotional blackmail. In the family, it wears the mask of tradition. You can't speak to your mother that way. You owe us respect. But respect born from guilt isn't respect. It's control. In the workplace, it presents itself as loyalty. You ought to be grateful. Who else would give you this opportunity? But demanded gratitude becomes manipulation. Here's the central point. Closeness isn't an excuse for emotional violation. Love isn't a license to transform someone through fear or guilt. To break the cycle, accept an uncomfortable truth. Not all ties with those we love are healthy. Not everyone who loves knows how to love with freedom. Not everything that binds protects. Some ties only keep you from growing. And what to do? Start by setting boundaries, clear, firm boundaries, without justifications. A peaceful no is stronger than 1,000 explanations. Then express what you notice, what you feel, what you'll no longer tolerate. not to convince the other, but to be honest with yourself. Hold your ground when the reaction comes, because it will. Offenses, victimhood, punitive silence. The manipulator feeds on your doubt. Test your limits, hoping you will retreat. This is a hard truth to face. Sometimes, loving someone means walking away. It's stopping the unhealthy dance and letting the other face their own emptiness. As long as you keep rescuing, sustaining, or explaining, nothing changes, and you lose yourself in the process. It's a difficult but essential decision. Only those who break toxic bonds gain a new vision, one able to see beyond words, masks, and intentions. With this clarity, we reach the next step. How to apply Machiavelli's strategic thinking in real life to shield your mind in a world full of influence attempts. It's time to flip the game. Machiavelli didn't write to please. He ignored questions of virtue or good intentions. He wanted to portray reality, raw and painful, the one most people flee from seeing. If you want to survive emotionally today, you need to think like him. With cool clarity, strategy, and distance. We live in an era of constant manipulation. Social media, marketing, politics, religion, relationships, everything is influence, image, narrative. Those who don't understand this get swallowed up. Machiavelli saw humans as predictable, driven by interests and emotions. He claimed, "Whoever understands this mechanism holds power. Men judge more by their eyes than by their hands. All can see, but few can touch." In other words, perception is worth more than truth. And that's how the game works today. Whoever controls the narrative controls the decisions. Whoever controls the image controls the influence. Whoever masters the psychological mechanisms controls behavior without ever raising their voice. In practice, what does that mean? It means you need to get off emotional autopilot. Machiavelli didn't believe in universal morality. He believed everything depends on context. What strengthens one might be weakness for another. What sounds noble in theory can be disastrous in practice. Kindness without discernment is naivety. Sincerity without timing is self-sabotage. Altruism without limits becomes servitude. If you want freedom, learn the rules of the game and play better. Everything starts with observation. Read people as Machiavelli read the nobles, not by their speech, but by their actions when nobody's watching. Evaluate conduct, not promises. Analyze patterns, not justifications. Be wary of words and look for hidden interests. And above all, don't react, anticipate. The manipulator plans every step. Your protection is to always stay one step ahead. Therefore, use silence as a shield. One of the biggest mistakes is excessive emotional exposure. Talking too much weakens you. Explaining too much gives away your control. The Machiavellian knows that silence confuses, commands respect, and dismantles the manipulator's script. When you don't react as expected, the game falls apart. It's in that void that control returns to you. Another lesson is to know how to handle ambiguity. Machiavelli taught to appear virtuous without necessarily being so. Today, that means adapting your posture, speech, and presence according to the environment without betraying your identity. Don't show everything. Always leave something in reserve. True power is what remains hidden. And most essential, take responsibility for your own emotional state. The manipulator needs your instability. He feeds on your doubt and hesitation. When you self-regulate, remain centered even under pressure, you become untouchable. Machiavelli would say, "A prudent man should always follow in the footsteps of great men and imitate those who have excelled, so that even if he does not reach their excellence, he may at least achieve some resemblance." That is to say, use the experience of the best to avoid being manipulated. Now that you understand manipulation, there remains one last question. How do you turn all this knowledge into practical power, truly changing your pattern for good? That's what we'll see in the last part. How to take the reins of your own mind and never be manipulated by anyone again. Are you ready to finally cut the last invisible strings holding you back? Then go forth. You have reached the most crucial moment of this video, and perhaps the most uncomfortable. As long as you don't take full control of your mind, someone else will do it for you. And it doesn't have to be a villain or a malicious person. It could be a smile beside you, a childhood phrase, an unquestioned social habit. Sometimes it's just society that has conditioned you from an early age to obey, yield, stay quiet. The manipulation that affects you goes beyond what people say to you. It's in the thoughts you repeat without ever questioning, in the emotions you swear are always true, in the choices you believe are yours, but were born from fear, guilt, and the need for acceptance. Being free begins when you stop calling your conditioning freedom, but that comes at a price. It asks you to let go of the myth that everyone around you has pure intentions. It asks you to give up being someone who's always ready to help and never sets boundaries. It asks you to withstand the discomfort of standing your ground, to handle the heavy silence after a no, to deal with the loneliness of cutting ties that only ever caused pain. You stop being manipulated when you accept you no longer need applause from others. When the fear of disappointing no longer dictates your behavior. When your clarity weighs more than your desire to be accepted. When you look at the person who manipulated you and calmly say, "Never again." The choice of what to do with this now is yours. You can ignore everything and keep living on autopilot. You can keep playing the game without noticing the other's rules. Or you can choose, today, to start training your mind, observe, analyze, resist, and rebuild yourself. You can become someone who no longer accepts emotional blackmail, who can see beyond masks and stay the course, even when feeling alone. Comment. When did you realize you were being manipulated? Was there a moment that woke you up? Or are you still caught in a web and need help? Share. Speak. Verbalizing is the beginning of the end of this cycle. If this video touched you, go to the next one. It complements and deepens everything we discussed here. Knowledge is like a ladder. With every step, more light on the path. Keep going. The truth sets you free and transforms you. See you there.